everyone, this is Mario with Bushcraft, and today I wanted to go over how to properly set and bed a foothold trap. And today I'm going to be using a coil spring trap, for example, and I'm going to go over the difference here in another video. I'm most likely going to upload that first. If not, a short rundown is simply a coil spring trap is smaller, long spring trap has longer springs, but I'll go over that in more detail in another video. But I wanted to go over how to properly set and bed one of these traps. I'm going to be doing a Dirthole set today for the example set, but this will transfer over to most trap sets you're going to make. This would be a coyote setup. It can be transferred to do for other types of game, but this is mostly a coyote style trap. I want to preface this by saying, you see I'm obviously in a yard here. You would never set one of these kind of traps in a yard. I'm going to take this apart literally as soon as I'm done. So I just want to emphasize that trapping is extremely regulated on a federal, state, and local level. So please do not practice or purchase any of these things without first A, understanding what you're doing, and B, having the proper licensing and the proper know-how to do this safely and in a responsible manner. So yeah, now that my little spiel is over, let's get started. On what I'm using here real quick, I wanted to show the flagging tape on top of the wax paper, which is going to be used for a pan covering. I'll explain that more here in a minute. My hammer with my ad style addition to it, the trap. I have a scraper there that's the sharp points are covered in styrofoam. That's not necessary. I'm going to go over what that does here in a second. And then I have a dirt sifter. The only things that are necessary in this situation are the dirt sifter, the hammer, and some sort of digging utensil, flagging tape, and a pan cover. Some form of staking also. The wire is not for staking. I don't have a stake out here with me today because I will not be staking this trap in. Like I said, I'm going to take this out as soon as I put it in the ground. So I'll go over staking here in a moment. I just wanted to show you what I'm working with. So first, we have to pick our location. I'm going to use this stump as a backdrop because I'm going to bring you guys around here so you can see over top of what I'm doing. But to give you an idea how we're going to set this up, you're going to want your trap about 15 inches back and usually 3 or 4 inches to the right, because you're going to have to picture an animal coming up. It's going to be walking like this, and you have to give space for the head, neck, and the snout, as well as the natural distance he's going to hold while he's sniffing it. So I like to do just a simple right angle, about 15 back, 3-4 inches maybe to the right or the left, depending on what type of catch I'm going for. As well as when you're doing this, you have to scale your setup to the animal and the size of the animal you're trying to catch. If I was going for a bigger coyote, a smaller coyote, a raccoon, a fox, that would affect my adjustments here. But I'm not going to get too far into that because that's a bit of a rabbit hole for what I wanted to do today. But let's just go over how we pick our location. Backdrop, I would choose where I was going to put my bait or set my dirt hole. So let's say I'm going to set it right here. That would imply I'm going to set my trap right about here, going for a front right foot catch. All right, so now that we've decided where our dirt hole is going to be, I'm going to try to create a little bit of an area here where you can see. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this, I want to put it right here, and that will give you a visualization of where our dirt hole is going to be as I prepare to set it, so you get a better idea of what I'm doing here. So first thing I'm going to do for my dirt hole is I use one of these heavy duty stakes. There's a lot of different like punches and stuff you can use. This is usually what I use to make my dirt holes. Take it and then I'll pound it in just a little bit. Then I just twist it around and it forms a pretty deep, narrow hole. And again, depending on your style of trapping, what your goal is, you can adjust the angle and how you're doing this. My goal here is to simply get somewhat of a narrow hole that faces nearly straight down. Widen it out just a little bit for appearance, but I don't want this too large. You don't want to have just a pit. I want to bring you up here and zoom in on that for you. Here's our dirt hole. It's nothing crazy, it's nothing fancy, it's just a simple hole in the dirt. And that is what we are going to, if we were going to set this permanently, like, or as if we were setting this for actual game, we would place our bait, our lure, whatever we are using to attract that animal inside that dirt hole. Now that our dirt hole is set, I'm going to measure out my right angle here, and then I'm going to decide where I want to bed my trap. And now the way you want to know how to bed your trap is you're going to take your trap and you want to know how big it is when it's open. So for that, obviously you just set it real quick and get an idea of how big that is when it's open. So naturally, your trap bed is going to have to be as large as the longest and widest point on your trap. So for me, that's about 8 inches by, I don't know, 9 inches, something like that. But it's always better to build it a little bigger. You can always pack the dirt in around it. So let's say we're going to build an 8x8 trap bed. If you ever want a safe way to shut this off, just flip the loose jaw on the bottom up, and then you can hit it, close it without having to get anything out of it. So we take our right angle, and then we're just going to dig out the ground in an 8x8 square. So we'll take that, and what we're going to do with all this extra dirt, some of it we're going to keep off to the side. The more mud dirt we're going to keep kind of off to the side here, and we can actually just put that straight into our pan because we're going to need this. However, the larger grass chunks and things like that, we'll shake this all out, and then we're going to put that off to the side to help build some fencing. So just set this off here. And I'm going to do this a little bit wider on this side. Alright, and now I'm going to bring you around over top of me so you can see how I'm going to set the rest of this up. Alright, so now we have our dirt hole set up, and I'm going to pull some of this grass away because I feel like it doesn't give you a really good idea of how far this is back. This is about 4 inches roughly, with about 15 back here. So now we would bait our hole if we had any bait, again if this was a real trap set. Since we're not going to do that, we're going to actually set up our trap here. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to firm the ground, and what this does is it's going to allow our trap to lay flat. So you can just kind of hammer that down, clean the edges. I like a nice clean square to set my trap in. I find that it prevents misfires or things from laying the wrong way. So just flatten that down. Now we're going to set our trap, and we're going to put it actually in, and we're going to cover it. I'm going to show you how to do that. Alright, so now that our hole is dug, you're going to see this is actually a little deeper than it looks. That's because I want to bury the chain. And normally I would stake this off, obviously, with a double stake in an X fashion. I'm not going to do that today, because I'm not going to keep this here, but I'm going to figure out pretty much exactly where I want my trap set, bury the amount of chain that I need to bury. And I dug this a little larger than I needed to, simply because I want it to be a better demonstration. So I'll set my trap, which do that here. It's a little tough to do that on camera with both hands, because I want to be facing the trap as I set it. So there's our trap. Make sure our chain isn't sitting in a way that's going to affect its firing. Dig it down here. Pound some of this dirt over the chain. And I'm going to block this off with sticks here so he's not going to really step on this. Now, we're going to take our wax paper and we're going to take a cube that's just about the inside diameter of our trap here. And I don't usually cut these any particular way. I just piece of wax paper will do. And we're going to want to cut out a little slit here to make sure we're not totally covering the trigger. And what we'll do is we'll lift our lower jaw, slide that underneath, and what this is going to do, we'll put our lower jaw down, it'll secure it, and this will allow our trap to sit fairly flat. And this wax paper is going to fight me. This is not a huge deal. Really, you want this to sit as flat as possible. It's kind of cold, and this wax paper can freeze up a little bit. Not a big deal. It'll press down as I put the dirt on, which I will do now. Just take our dirt, shake it, and this dirt sifter is going to keep any big pieces of grass from impeding the closure of our trap. And a little grass might get in there, that's not a huge deal. You take some of this excess grass up that doesn't really have dirt in it after this, and just put it off to the side. Take some of this extra. I'll run it through the sifter here and put the remains back. Brush this off just a little bit, because we're going to want this pan to be the lowest possible spot for animals to step on, because animals are just naturally going to take the path of least resistance. So now I'm going to cover up the last bit here. I'm kind of running out of dirt, mostly grass that I cut up, that I moved here, because again, I'm doing this in my yard because I want to just have a nice clean demonstration area. You would never set something like this in a suburban, well, I guess I'm more of a rural area, but in a rural setting where there could possibly be kids or dogs or cats or animals you don't want to catch come around. And that is definitely the case right in this area with the amount of dogs and stuff. And you're actually going to want it to look a little like an animal was here. So I should have clarified that earlier. We're going to put our shade back down here. We'll cover this around in grass. And this could be any natural material. if you were working with leaves or something like that. You really want, you can get a little bit of grass over the top here to kind of blend it in, but you're going to want this to be the best place for this animal to step, whether that's making it, you know, leaves, or you can add sticks around here, which we're going to do in a minute. But we're just going to want this to look as natural as possible, which means we're going to want to kind of clear the approach, have an approach that is guiding the foot onto our trap. And we would bait this dirt hole, and again, we would block off so this animal is naturally funneled into the trap. I'm going to demonstrate that here in a moment. First, I'm going to make this look just a little bit more natural. Spread some dirt around, pack everything down, because you do not want this trap to move at all or anything like that, or the animal will dig it up. So I'm going to show you how we would funnel this now. All right, now that we have our trap set, I can see my pan right here. We're going to begin our fencing. And fencing is extremely important. That is what's going to allow this animal to walk pretty much exactly where we want it to when in reference to our bait. So I have a pile of sticks here, and what I'm going to begin to do is simply build a natural looking cage or a funnel of sorts. And I'm going to want to have it pretty random. I'm not really going to want to make it anything too crazy, too fancy. I'm just going to kind of want to take these sticks and set them in such a way that the animal really only has one good way to enter this trap set. And I'm going to take care to make sure these sticks aren't going to fall into my actual trap itself, because that would obviously mess up what we're doing. So I'm just going to kind of throw it out here. I don't want anything too crazy, nothing to really spook them off. But you see, naturally now the animal really only has one pathway to enter, one place to stop and look. He could, in essence, come from this angle. If I was worried about that, I could, you know, throw more sticks to prevent him from seeing this. I could, you know, put some grass here so it feels like he can't get a good view from right here. He's going to want to get up close. Coyotes, if I had baited this with another coyote's urine or a bait scent, coyotes are going to want to really get their nose in there. So I'm not super worried that he's going to try to walk around my sticks. If I was, I could always build a bigger fencing, which I may or may not do depending on the style of trap that I'm setting. But really, I just want to funnel him in here. That's going to be the best place for this coyote to go, and it's going to allow me to have the most optimal setting for my trap. There's, you know, it's nature, you can only do so much, but again, it's the best that I can do. I'm pretty happy with it. I have this scraper here, and what I like to do here is I'll sort of just scrape around the front of the and I got this from just an old trapper who had kind of helped me get into this hobby when I was young. And I like to just kind of scratch this around. Nothing crazy, but it makes it look like another animal's been digging here, which is going to cause our coyote to have a more natural reaction to this set. So I like to do that, and depending on the environment, I may do more or less, again, really depending on the style of trap I'm going to set. But this is your good basic dirt hole foothold set. So really all there is to it, you just bait the hole, flag it with some sort of flagging tape, and, you know, check every 24 hours or go off of your state law. And again, federal, state, and local regulations all come into play here on top of personal responsibility. I cannot emphasize that enough. But I'm glad you guys got to see how I would do a basic dirt hole. I did it against the stump to show you that I like to have some sort of backdrop that's fairly immovable, that he's not going to be able to come up from behind the trap set, as well as something just stable to kind of hold everything together. And again, you can set this up however you want. If you want a more aggressive style fencing, you could put the sticks up on this and build up walls. If you wanted less aggressive, you could kind of just, you know, maybe throw some dirt and scatter the sticks around. You can make it's just like a cheeseburger or a pizza. You can do it however you want. There's some basic components you need to know, but it really comes down to individual creativity, preference, and the environment around you. Thanks for sticking with me today. This has been Mario with Blue Oak Bushcraft. Drop a comment if you want to see some more videos like this in the future. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. I really those really help me, obviously, a growing page. I don't plan on monetizing this page at all or anything like that. I really just want to get good information out there in a responsible, respectful, and an effective manner. So subscribe for more content in the future. I'm going to really be trying to upload quite a few videos in the next couple weeks here. So if you want to see some of those, subscribe. And as always, I hope you have a fantastic day.